Dear viewers, welcome to Tell It As It Is TV. We'll be bringing you ancient and modern true life stories with graphic images.
Please note that characters and some environs are fictional.
If you haven't seen part 1 and 2 of this story, we will leave the links on the description section for catch-ups. Please do well to follow up to better understand the story. Now let's begin. King Exiled has succeeded in marrying Princess Adaeze off to Prince Exiled of Ebada Kingdom. In the spirit world, King Exiled and Azueruali conversed with deep disappointment about Ezedeke's actions. The king's voice resonates with a somber tone as he addressed Azueruali. The state of the kingdom is disheartening. The king lamented, Ezedeke's greed and treachery have reached new heights. He has forced Adaeze into marriage with Prince Exiled of Ebada Kingdom, and now her life is in peril. Azueruali's spirit is filled with a mix of anger and determination. I cannot believe how far he has fallen. He has tainted everything we once held dear. We must act swiftly to protect Adaeze and ensure justice is served. The king nodded gravely. We must intervene. Adaeze's safety is paramount, and Ezedike must face the consequences of his deeds. We cannot allow him to succeed in this treachery. On the night Princess Adaeze of Osiakpu clan and Prince Exiled of Ebada Kingdom got married, in a dimly lit chamber, as the moon and the stars beautifies the sky, Prince Exiled tries to force his way on Princess Adaeze. Azueruali appears. With anger in his eyes, he strikes Prince Exiled dead instantly and vanishes. Princess Adaeze marveled at the sight of seeing the prince choked to death. She did not see her late husband's vengeful spirit. In the village square of the Ebada Kingdom, Princess Adaeze stood bound and vulnerable amidst a hostile crowd. The queen of Ebada, consumed with anger, accused Adaeze of murder. This woman is responsible for my son's death, the queen cried out. She must be punished for what she has done. The crowd echoed her sentiments, their anger boiling over. Just then, the chief priest arrived, pushing through the agitated villagers. Stop this, the chief priest demanded, raising his staff to command attention. Adaeze is innocent. The spirit of her husband has intervened. If you harm her, the spirits will exert a severe retribution. A defiant villager shouted back, we will not be swayed. She must pay for the prince's death. The chief priest, undeterred, warned, proceed with this injustice and you will face dire consequences. Ignoring the warning, a villager threw a stone at Adaeze. As the stone flew through the air, it suddenly stopped mid-flight, hovered momentarily, and then reversed direction, striking the thrower in the forehead. He fell to the ground, dead, causing panic among the onlookers. The chief priest quickly addressed the crowd. Leave now. The spirits have made their will known. Do not pursue this any further. The frightened crowd scattered, leaving Adaeze alone with the chief priest. The chief priest approached Adaeze and began to untie her bonds. Go home, my adorable Princess Adaeze, the chief priest instructed gently. Your husband's spirit is your guardian and protector. His protection will keep you safe. When Adaeze returned to Osiamu, Ezedike locked her up in his private palace cell. Boast about his power. He believes that by imprisoning her, he has control not only over her but over Azuruali's spirit as well. His greed binds him to the spiritual forces at work, and he refuses to believe that Azuruali's presence is still strong. While Adaeze sits quiet in the dark cell, she begins to feel Azuruali's presence. At first, she hears faint whispers, comforting words from her late husband, reassuring her that he is always watching over her. Meanwhile, strange things start to happen in the palace. Doors slam, shut by themselves, guards mysteriously fall ill, and rumors spread that the palace is cursed. One night, as King Ezedike approaches Princess Adaeze's cell to taunt her once more, he is suddenly thrown back by an invisible force. Azuruali's voice echoes through the halls.
Ezedike, release against dire consequences.
The entire palace begins to tremble. The shadows of the spirit world seem to materialize in every corner. King Ezedike, filled with fear but still determined to maintain his power, gathers his most trusted advisors and priests to rid the palace of Azuruali's spirit. They begin a series of rituals to banish the spirit, but each attempt fails. The palace is plagued by more supernatural occurrences. Mirrors chatter, the air becomes thick with an unnatural cold, and eerie whispers haunt Ezedike wherever he goes. During a climatic moment, Ezedike decides to confront Azuruali's spirit head-on. He enters the palace cell where Adaeze is being held and demands that Azuruali show himself. As if answering his challenge, a powerful gust of wind blows through the room, and the spirit of Azuruali manifests in full form. Azuruali's presence overwhelms Ezedike, and a powerful dialogue ensues between the spirit and his treacherous brother-in-law. Azuruali gives Ezedike one final chance to repent, but Ezedike is too consumed by pride, refuses and attempts to strike at the spirit. The spirit disappears as he starts bragging. "Show yourself, you evil spirit. You are dead, buried, gone and forgotten. I am King Ezedike, the only mortal who defeated you in wrestling. I fear no one, dead or alive." Yet again, in the spirit world, Azuruali is so upset. I spared him because he is family, and he there brags about how him being the only mortal that has defeated me in a wrestling bout. "Let me handle him," the king interjected. Ezedike is sleeping when the king visited his dream. Ezedike, Release Adaeze. Confess your crime. Step down from the throne. Adaeze's first son has to be crowned king. For you are not worthy to be king. When he wakes up, he rejects the nightmare and plans on killing Adaeze's two sons in their sleep that very night, as they have been living in the palace since the day he forcefully marries Adaeze off to the late Prince Ikowu of Ebada Kingdom. On getting to the boys' room, as he tries to kill them in their sleep, Azuruali appears. "I gave you a chance, and now you want to harm my sons?" Ezedike, seeing the anger and fire in Azuruali's eyes, runs off in fear. On getting to the corridors, The king appears in front of him. He tries to turn around, but Azuriel appears behind him. Ezedike has no place to go, and then he starts bleeding. There is no hiding place for the wicked. Azuriel's voice roared as Ezedike continued pleading, and so the king asked him to call a meeting in the morning and confess that whatever the chiefs and elders decide must be his fate. But he must vacate the throne at once, as Isidore has to be crowned the next king of Osiabu Kingdom once he comes of age. As King Ezedike stood before the people in the village square, his face was ashen, his eyes hollow. The crowd was silent, waiting for him to speak. The weight of the spirit command hung over him like a shroud. The sun had barely risen, casting an eerie glow over the square. Ezedike knew that whatever he said now would seal his fate. In a trembling voice, he began to confess, I killed my father, his voice shaking with guilt. I was consumed by greed, blinded by the promises of power. I sought the throne, and I sacrificed my honor and my family's legacy. And now I have betrayed my sister and plotted to kill her sons. Gasps erupt from the crowd as the elders exchanged shocked glances. The chief elder stepped forward, his voice filled with authority. You have defied not only the throne but the spirits themselves. Your actions have brought shame upon this kingdom. The people reject you as king, and for your crimes you are to be exiled. He took the crown from his head and took the staff of office. One last thing, my father's spirit warned that Isidore, my first nephew, must be crowned the next king. The chief elder responded, We shall consult the gods, and if they say we must proceed in crowning Isidore, Princess Adese's first son, then we must obey the voice of our late dear king, who we held dear before you murdered him. Go now, before we take your life on the ground where you stand. We don't want to see you any longer. Ezedike hung his head in defeat as the people turned their backs on him, symbolically casting him out of the kingdom. The burden of his actions weighed heavily as he walked away into the wilderness, never to return.
On the other hand, Queen Adure, sober and in tears, leaves Osiabu back to Ebada Kingdom, as there is nothing left for her in Osiabu again. Her husband has been banished, as she was still mourning the death of her dear brother, Prince Iko. Her parents welcomed her home, as a feeling of sadness envelops them. A year later, once a place of treachery had been restored to peace, Adese's sons, Isidore and Obulo, had grown stronger, guided by their mother's wisdom and Azuriel's watchful spirit. Isidore, now married to Asama, are to be coronated. The entire kingdom gathered to witness the crowning of the new king and his queen. Elders chanted prayers, invoking the spirits of their ancestors to bless the young king's reign. As the golden crown was placed on Isidore's head, a sense of hope and renewal washed over the kingdom. After the ceremony, Adese took her sons aside. Her face was calm but serious as she began the story of their father, her late husband. Your father, Azuriel, was a man of unmatched strength, she said, her voice steady. But the strength was not just physical. It came from within, From his loyalty to his people, his family, and the sacred traditions of the old, right from the ages of time, of his forefathers and ancestors. She paused, looking each of her sons in the eyes. Your father was betrayed by Ezedike's deceit through me. But what made him who he was, what kept him undefeated, was his vow never to have sexual intercourse on Eke Market Day. That vow fortified and protected him. She took a deep breath, her expression softening with emotion. Now, as you both take your places in this kingdom, Isidore, you as the king, and Obulo, you as the king wrestler, you must remember this. Honor this tradition that protected your father. Let them protect you too. On no account must you break the vow. Isidore and Obulo nodded solemnly, absorbing their mother's ways. As the sun began to set, casting a golden hue over the kingdom, they knew that their father's legacy would guide them in their journey ahead. Adaeze and her sons are now free, strengthened by the knowledge that Azueruali and Ezoba, her late husband and her late father, will always watch over them. The kingdom began to heal from the scares of Ezedike's treachery. A new ruler, possibly chosen by the elders and the will of the ancestors, ascends the throne, and the spirit of Azueruali and King Ezoba finds peace, knowing that their family is safe.
Betrayal and greed lead to downfall, while loyalty to tradition and family brings strength and prosperity. Adaeze's perseverance and the influence of the spirits ensure that justice prevails, and the kingdom is restored through the next generation. Find out what happened to SDEK, who's been exiled in part 4. Please kindly subscribe to our channel, like, comment, and share.